Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is an exciting show. A longtime friend and somebody I know as an expert in the industry, one of the best attorneys you'll find in the state of Missouri, if not the country, and an expert in what he does, and has helped many people, including myself a couple times. We've had some time. I said, Eric, I need some. What do I do? And great advice he gave me. So give it up, everybody, for Eric Boehmer. He is our expert attorney for the show here to tell us a little bit about what we need to be aware of and all of the legal findings that people have. I mean, it's hard to imagine you live too long on this little planet and you don't have some time where you have to get the expert advice from an attorney.
You can't go a single day, you can't drive down the highway without violating some law. You can't walk down the street without violating some law or needing an attorney for something. Most of the time they don't get prosecuted, but the need for lawyers is great these days.
Sure, and it's where it's great to have some experts that you know you can trust. Eric, I've known now for 25 years or so. We've been buddies.
Yeah, probably.
Lived in the St. Charles area, kind of where I grew up is South County, but I moved up here back in 2004. So about 20 years then, we're talking overall. But great to have a good friend and somebody who I know I can trust, and I'll refer to anybody when it comes down to it. I know a lot of people, they found you on their own, like Eric did a great job, so good work. We're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Here we are, Carroll House Furniture, because you like nice things in your little castle. And then, of course, we love the fact that we have partnered up, and you can see there's the in your little castle. We've also partnered up with USA Mortgage. I do have my mortgage license. It's a crazy mortgage world out there, but if you want to get some expert help there, look us up. I do have my mortgage, like I said, license. You can see my NLS number come up here in a little bit, and we appreciate all the support from them. With that, we're going to put up on the wall, we've got the Boehmer Law fan page and your website. So great information here, lots of good resources there for people to tap into. So first thing I always ask is, Eric, why did you decide to become an attorney?
Well, it's kind of a difficult question. I don't have any lawyers in my family, so I wasn't following in anyone's footsteps, but I was always attracted to the idea of law, even early in high school, and I played ball in college, so I really didn't know exactly where I was going to end up, and I had to make some tough decisions, and I got an opportunity to go to law school right after college, and I took it and fell in love with it.
Now, you've got a pretty extensive background. As a matter of starting off, were you a prosecuting attorney initially?
My very first job, yes.
And so that gave you a real insight and made a lot of connections. That helps you with your path to help people who are on the other side of the fence, right?
What I liked about it was the work was great. It got you right into the courtroom immediately, got you trial experience right away, and that was, a huge benefit to starting off my legal career. And you got to know people because you're always in the courtroom, so you got to know a lot of the prosecutors, judges, and different attorneys from all around that came in to see you. So it was one of the best experiences of my life.
Well, as a matter of an expertise that people may have to do what they love, I mean, given the background, and I know you've been doing this for so long, we'll talk a little bit about some of the specialties that you guys have, but you cover kind of the gamut for anybody who does have legal issues. These are your experts here. You talked a little bit about the path there, and so now as you've started your own law firm, you've been in law, your own firm or a partner firm and now your own firm for the last, tell us a little bit of the background there and how long you've had your own firm now.
So I've been in private practice for about 20 years, actually owning a law firm, whether a partner or by myself. And I've had my own law firm where it was just me with my associates for a little over 10 years now.
10 years, okay. And you've also got 5 lawyers that work for you full time right now.
That's correct.
That's a great gamut. Then now you've got a lot of people in office that can make sure that everybody gets taken care of. It's hard to run a show by yourself. I could talk about putting together something when you're solo. That's tough. There's some lawyers try to go that route, but you've got some experts that specialize that are on your team there too.
It is. I don't like the idea of having to do everything yourself. And the best example I can give you is if you build a house. You want to have a roofer come to your roof because that's his specialty. You want to have a plumber come to the plumbing, that's their specialty. So I took the time over the years to get a team together that did individual work at a high level in certain areas. For example, family law. I've got guys who that's their specialty. That's what they do on a daily basis. We have our criminal guys, we have our personal injury, and our guys that do wills and trusts. So if you have people who specialize and do the same thing every day, then they're going to tend to be better equipped to handle your needs in that individual field.
Yeah, it's just, like you say, a jack of all trades, master of none. You want to have those who go in and specialize with what you are trying to get help with, because if you don't know what you're talking about, all you need is a little bit of a mistake, and somebody can bust you, and you get yourself a lot of trouble. You want to have those lawyers on your side.
It's nice to know a little bit about all of it, and I feel like I do, but I really want to have experts in each individual field to really help the clients out.
Right, and because when it comes down to it, you're talking about situations where people could potentially be going to jail for a long time, or losing thousands or even potentially millions of dollars in lawsuits. It could dramatically affect their livelihood and their family. But that's why you need to have the right representation, somebody that can take care of that.
Yeah, the biggest thing that we see potentially is losing your freedom, losing your kids in like in a custody battle, or for example, in a personal injury suit. If you don't have someone who values each individual case, takes their time to maximize dollars, you could be a part of one of these big factories that just takes in thousands of cases and settles whatever they can as fast as they can. That could be money out of your pocket.
Right, and that's again where you want somebody who's got the dedicated expertise to make sure that they get the job done, as you've done for myself and for I know a number of clients. We'll show a little bit about your reviews. You got some incredible reviews, a ton of reviews, but everybody loves Eric Boehmer and the Boehmer Law Firm. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, with that, tell me what is about this that fuels your passion. If you said there's one thing that just makes you wake up every day, that you love what you're doing, what is it about being a lawyer and helping our community, helping our planet, helping our citizens in this country that really drives you to do what you do?
Well, there's multiple factors there. I would say the greatest portion of satisfaction comes from helping someone who really didn't do anything wrong. Someone who's been falsely accused, whether it be in a divorce or a criminal case, a civil suit. That is very satisfying. But there are also people who may have made a mistake and being asked to pay a price that's higher than they should, and I like to help those people as well. And there's not only helping them, but also the competitive nature. I like to win, and I want to win my cases. And I love going to trial. I love cross-examining people. I love giving arguments, and it's the best part of being a lawyer, in my opinion.
Well, I guess a little of that might come from your competitive sports background. An avid athlete, played a lot of sports, but baseball in particular, went on a scholarship to play Division I baseball, and a background you've got there. That competitive nature, that fuels a lot, doesn't it?
It never goes away. It's just one of those things that you have or you don't. And if you have it, it's a wonderful tool at times, as long as you can control it. But it definitely helps in all aspects, I think.
Well, we appreciate that as a matter of, I think the reason I survived a coma, that you know a little bit about the background, and I think I came through that because of my competitive background too. And somebody that just wasn't going to listen to what the doctor said, and had to get some lawyers involved back in the day too. Yeah. And in that case, great to have legal representation, and we went after the best lawyers from that time, a little before you were, I think you were in college at the time, but just great representation, and so I can appreciate what lawyers do to make sure that you get what you deserve. And boy, that was a crazy case, and I'm sure you deal with lots of excitement when you're dealing with clients like that.
We do, well. And you were a fighter, and that's part of what brought you through the other end the way you did.
True, yeah, and that's what we want other people. We talk about that as a matter of stay with whatever it is your passion is, go for it, never give up, and you can accomplish that. And to see somebody as a professional like yourself, encourage them, hey, become a lawyer someday if you like to. Talk about the experience overall with your entire firm. You've got some experts, you've got 5 attorneys working for you. Give me a little bit of the background there with some of those guys if you would like.
Well, I brought a guy in from St. Louis that, it really knows the people in that area, St. Louis County, St. Louis City, which is pretty helpful because we don't just stay in St. Charles County. We go to many counties, and we handle probably at least 5 counties on a weekly basis. I brought a guy in from Jefferson City to come in and do a lot of our civil stuff and some family law. So I kind of tried to handpick guys from different areas that really had a niche for like maybe family law or criminal in a certain area. They really knew some of the judges or prosecutors, and I did a good job of finding that team and putting them together from different areas.
And that's the key to the success of anything. If your team is what makes it work. My assistant Dawn does a great job, and I couldn't run this business without her. You've got to have those kinds of resources, especially when you're talking about attorneys. You get some of these attorneys that may not be as endearing, or if you get the background on, you're like, man, I don't know if that's going to work. But since you've studied these guys, and now you build those relationships, and how long have most of these guys been working for you? I guess now you're going into many years together working.
Yeah, some of them, 8 years or so. Some of them 5 years. It's kind of funny. You mentioned baseball earlier. If you had a baseball team and you threw your 9 guys out in the field, but they were all first basemen, how good would your team be? So you have to have that diversity, and you have to be able to have the right guy who's an expert in each position, each field, and that's kind of what we've tried to do.
And we'll talk about that a little bit. A number of awards, as we got here on the screen. I'm going to share a little bit about your website with everybody. I'll put that up on the screen for everybody to take a look here. But this is great information for people to see that you've highly ranked, highly astute, and always paying attention to what's going on in the community, so that you get those accolades that people need to know about. But with that, you can see also DWI. I'm gonna go through a little bit here and let people take a look here. Criminal DWI falls underneath that. You've got a plethora of information here. If you look at all of what you've got on your website, tons of great information here. Divorce law, family law, personal injury, and then wills and estate planning, along with a little business and real estate. Talk to me about each one of these categories that you specialize in, and why you decided that these are the focuses that you wanted to stay with.
Well, I wanted to be able to cater to the entire family as best as possible. There are a few other areas of specialty law that it's difficult, that we don't handle, immigration, bankruptcy. It's a very specialized area. There are plenty of good lawyers out there. It's just, I didn't want to get into something that we didn't know and be spread too thin. So we want to cover the basic ones that most households would encounter at some point in time. And your average household is going to have at least some sort of criminal case, DWI, or car accident, or need a civil suit to be filed or defended, or at the very least, every household should have a will and trust. So if we cover the major areas, I felt like we could handle most of the families in our county and the neighboring counties to be able to provide them a hand. And we put a lot of information on the website because that's kind of the way it is today. Everybody wants to be able to kind of read ahead of time and kind of find out some stuff on their own. So we're happy to put it up there for people to be able to find on their own. And then when they're comfortable, call us, come in, sit down for a free consultation and go over the information, and they can give us their details so we can match to the law as it applies, what they might need specially done or what they don't want to do, because the information, the law is general and generic. There are special information, their special needs are met with the individual facts.
Absolutely, and that's very critical to making sure that somebody does get represented correctly, because if you're missing any fine point that somebody didn't go over because they don't have the background, how many people want to come in and say, well, I've done my research and I've done the background on this, and I think this is the way I should go with this, but I just need a lawyer to make sure we do this right. And you got to go, hold on a second, there's about 10 years, 20 years of background we've got here to explain. Maybe you are missing something. You want to not leave yourself out on a limb.
It happens a lot. Quite frankly, we do have the information on the website, which is, like I said, it's pretty generic. It's the law. It's what's supposed to be there. But I get people all the time who, while I was online, I was reading this, I was looking at that, and I have to untrain them first and then tell them what the law actually is and how it applies to them, which is important. I know what the law is and how it applies to the individual. Because most folks, if you don't have a law degree, you don't know what you're looking at. You don't know what you're doing. It's fun to research, but other people don't really know. I mean, I equate it to going to the hospital or a surgery. You're not going to read about a surgery online and do it, or have your friend do it.
Right.
You still need an expert. You still need the doctor who knows what he's doing to help you out.
Well, and that's again back to you must find the right expertise. If you're going to walk in, and I can imagine, like, it's trying to work on your own car. How many people try to work on their own car and they end up causing more problems than they would have if they would have just taken it to an expert? Same way with the law. There's so much that goes into the background and all the depth and all the statutes and amendments and everything you must understand. I mean, I can't imagine that people would try to represent themselves or want to even mess with going through it. Even for traffic tickets, I'm just like, not worth messing with it. Call the experts.
Yeah, I mean, even if you wanted to go to court by yourself and you thought that, well, I'm pretty clever, I think I can talk to them, I might be able to get it done. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. But you're also going to waste 3 hours or more of your life. And is that worth the minimal amount you're going to pay an attorney to take care of a ticket? Now, obviously, more serious charges are more expensive, but you're not going to be trying to handle those yourself. You know, that's, once again, I wouldn't go into a hospital without a doctor. I wouldn't go into court without a lawyer.
Great point. And I recall, I mean, I've seen personally where there was a situation. I actually called you about it, and I said, hey, you got this guy. He's got the situation. He should be completely exonerated, but I think he's going to go and try. I'm sorry, I think I called you at that point. I said he tried to represent himself and got himself in a much deeper hole because he started talking about things and saying things. And I think he might have got the judge upset at him and said, hey, and now he's going, oh, and guess where you're going? And he didn't leave the building that day. He had to stay there for a little while because he tried to represent himself.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to say something about it and I didn't yet. Often people do more damage and set themselves into a bigger hole trying to start off themselves. One of the biggest issues I see that is personal injury. Everybody wants to do their own personal injury case. They want to start it off and talk to the insurance company. And the insurance company is never going to respect you as an individual, and they're going to make you an offer that is terrible most of the time. The problem with that is now it's in the system. That offer is now in the system. So when you don't like it and you get an attorney, I come in or my team comes in and we start working on that case, and the adjuster says, well, there's already been an offer made at this amount. And now we're working off of that amount. And I gotta, no, gotta undo that, let's start over and get a more reasonable level. So you can often do more damage than you want to doing it on your own.
How many times do you find somebody, especially in a personal injury case, where they literally are like, they came to me and I got $30,000 they're going to give me, and they say, it sounds like you could, and then they essentially put themselves in that tie hold before they get started, where if you would have got the opportunity to start off with it, no, it should have been a $500,000 case.
It happens a lot.
And that's what you have to deal with. How do you circumvent that? And as you're saying, before they even start off with you, before you even talk to the insurance companies.
Definitely start off with a lawyer in any aspect. People tend to talk. People like to talk. And for example, you're pulled over by an officer. He just wants to ask you a few simple questions. You think you're clever. You answer his questions, but you're going to do it real smart. Now, you may not have admitted to him that you're the one that stole the gas can, but you inadvertently admitted that you were nearby, you were there, you used the gas, you knew the person who took it, you made admissions that are going to hurt your case. Personal injury case. You know, when you talk to these insurance adjusters, they record your phone call. And they use that against you. Had a really big case, potentially really big case come up. And I had a client who called way before they hired us and had apologized and told the other side it wasn't their fault. And fast forward a year down the road, when I'm doing my negotiations with the attorney for the insurance company, because the case went pretty far, he sends me the recording of my client telling the other side that it wasn't their fault on a recorded call. So you just want to talk to your attorney before you talk to anybody else, because anything you say today can and will be used against you.
Right, and they just love. I recall one time many years ago where I was actually in a situation, pulled over, and it was interesting because he just coaxed the conversation with me the whole time when he decided to take me in. And when I got there, they said, "You sound fine to me," but he at that point had already made up his mind. This whole thing got thrown out. But it was just, gosh, if I'd have just kept my mouth shut and then got that attorney on the phone. I was fortunate to get an attorney on the phone right as it happened. Once we got to the station, I'm sharing some of my personal background here a little bit, but it's okay. But yeah, they looked at it, they wrote this thing up anyway, and now it's been thrown out. But I had to go through all the hoops to get that done. And if I didn't have legal representation, and since they wrote it up anyway, it would have been what they wrote it up as. That's where these lawyers come in. You guys do a great job to make sure people are properly represented, because this guy was just throwing something against the wall to see if it would stick. And if I didn't get an attorney, boy, I could have been in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I's to be dotted and T's to cross. And you need a good lawyer to make sure they do it, no matter what the field is. And whether it's police officers who do a fine job, especially in our area, I really appreciate them, or insurance adjusters, whatever the case may be. Their goal is to elicit information from you without upsetting you. So they're quite often going to tell you things that you want to hear, and that's their job, in order to get you to say things that they want to hear. And so you might be feeling real good about what you're saying to whoever it is you're dealing with. And then come to find out later, you said some things that are now being used against you. And when you complain to your lawyer, well, the officer said this, or the insurance adjuster said that, the other attorney said this. Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything. The only thing that matters is that you said something to them that was not good for your case.
The response that you gave was divulging information that they ultimately could easily use against you. And they're out there to get their careers going and also make sure that they're processing things to make themselves look like they're doing their job correctly. And it just ends up being something where you have to have an expert to represent you, or you could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and that's their job. That's why we pay them to do those things for us. And, a good officer, which we have most of them around here, they're not going to, get you all riled up and get you all upset so that you clam up and don't want to say anything and become combative. They don't want to deal with a combative guy, especially if he's been drinking, late at night. They want you nice, calm, and easy. They're going to be really nice to you and tell you some things you want to hear and let you talk as much as you want and ask you some questions and let you answer them. And then they got what they need and they let you go, and we'll see you later in court.
Wow, that's a lot to take in there. And as most people understand, I'm an avid supporter of the police in our area. I talk to them all the time. I've worked with all kinds of different, and they're trying to do their job. But we're ultimately just trying to get through the system so we can make sure that we're all getting along and making this little planet a safe place to live. And man, the police do a wonderful job with that. But they have to work with the lawyers in our community to make sure that everything gets done properly. Everybody gets a proper representation to make sure that they are represented equally and fairly in court, and make sure that their life stay on the path that they need to, making a mistake, but apply the laws accordingly.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody's got their job to do, whether it's the judge, the prosecutor, probation officer, the police officer. They all have their job to do, and they do a good job, especially around here. But the lawyer has his job to do too, and his job is in big part making sure everybody else did their job right. And I have a lot of police officer friends, and a lot of them that I love and respect, but they also know that I'm going to do my job and do what I have to do in order to safeguard my client, safeguard his rights, and get the best result for them.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen, expert. We're going to put up on the wall here, you can see behind Eric. I'm going to share this so everyone can see on the screen. This is pretty amazing. 236 reviews. Generally, you get about 20% or 10% of people that will come in will leave a review. So that's some over 23,000 clients potentially there. But great job. And with a 4.6, now you can really see there's some very happy people that you've helped. A 4.6, you're getting close to a 5.0. If you had a 5.0, I would have thought something was wrong. But 4.6, obviously, that's an A plus in our little planet here, doing great work. I'm going to start off here with Emily. I had a great experience with Eric. I enjoyed the first meeting when I came in. My sister Maggie, she herself enjoyed his company. I felt very relieved after the first meeting. I was confident that he would take care of my situation and represent her and her parents, her co-parents. So again, somebody that was very happy with what you did there and did a great job. Eric handled my case. This is from Jessica. Professionally, as quickly as circumstances would allow. I would never have to use. I hope to never have to use the services again, but if that's the case, I will.
We get that a lot. Well, I was like, hey, I was very happy to meet you. I'm so glad that you helped me out. Gosh, I hope I don't have to see you again.
Well, yeah, because a lot of people, when you're going through these kinds of legal situations, it's tough, man, and you don't want to. It's a terrifying experience, especially when you're sitting up there in front of a guy who might have done wrong to you, and you're saying. I remember when I had to testify in the case where we were hit by the drunk driver. I had to sit in front of that lawyer, or in front of the judge, and talk about what this guy had just done to me, and I was kind of just, yeah, this is not good, and I was in a coma as a result, and lucky to survive. the guy, my buddy, got up afterwards. It was in the accident with us. It was in the passenger seat, and he got in front of us. Goes, "And this guy, he's a jackass," and he went after him. And it was really interesting to see the way this all came about. But everybody got their opportunity to speak, and then the lawyers came in afterwards. So now here's how we're going to handle this. Here's how we're going to settle this.
It's much more difficult than people think to go into a courtroom. I mean, a jury is a whole nother ball game, but it's nerve-wracking. And we get all kinds of people. I get clients who they bring their stuff to me, they drop it off, and I never hear from them again until it's done. And I got to go, hey, your stuff's done, here you go. And I get people who are very nervous and they are very worried, and they call me every week to check up on stuff. And, you know, you got to deal with all kinds. And I just can't imagine those folks, particularly the more nervous ones, having to do that on their own and go into a courtroom on their own without having someone there to comfort them, tell them what's going to happen, show them the ropes, show them the ins and outs, how it's going to end up, and just really fight for them. So, you know, it's important to me to get those good results, because there's a big mental game to this, a big mental aspect for clients as well, that they don't really understand until they get in the middle of it.
Wow, yeah, a lot to take on, a lot to overcome, and a lot to deal with. It just seems that there's so much. I don't know how anybody could even begin to try to take this on without getting an expert, especially when you're talking about potentially, for lack of a better term, giving up your own freedom. I mean, to have the option to not be able to function in our culture and our society today because you just didn't bother to get the right representation.
Well, and not just that, we talked a lot about the criminal part, but think about your spouse serving you a summons for petition for dissolution of marriage. And you're reading in there, and it says in paragraph 6 that they are wanting full custody, and they want you to have supervised visitation only, and they want you to pay for everything. I mean, can you imagine the heart attack you would have that someone has literally filed a petition with the court asking for you not to be able to have your kids? I mean, and then to go in there on your own and deal with that, it's not possible.
Yeah.
You got to have someone who knows the law and can fight for you.
There is a lot of emotion and a lot of detail that goes into that you must be aware of, that you understand, so that you get your hands, because there's so much at stake, and it's just something you don't want to take on all on your own. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're finishing up. It goes fast, Eric.
Yeah.
This is the end of our first half-hour show with Eric. We're going to have another half hour with Eric here. We're going to answer some more in-depth questions, get into a little more of the nitty-gritty. I'm going to start him off with one thing that sets his business apart, so you can hear what it is. If you're thinking about being a lawyer someday, if you want to get into this field, what are the things you need to do to separate yourself from the rest? There's a lot of lawyers out there who do a great job, but you want to be one of the best, like Eric and his team has proven for a long time here. And then we're going to talk about a big mistake that a lot of people make. We touched on some of that a little bit, but we'll get into that much more depth here as we continue, because you don't want to make those mistakes. Those mistakes that could lead to you losing your freedom, or losing your livelihood, or losing your sustainability, your income, your money, your resources, and that's something you don't want to put at jeopardy.
No, too much at risk.
All right, everybody, stay tuned for more. This is the Your Little Castle Show. Giddy up.